why else isn't the top trending thing on X or on your Instagram feed or Facebook? Why aren't they just the positive, stories and the, kid saves puppy and girl does good and this and no, it's always the stuff that stirs up anxiety,
shootings and disasters.
It's all the negative because on some level it's resonating with what's going on in our hearts and it's fueling it. So we got a few things on our list for today, right?
Yeah.
We're 1 week into Lent, right? As when this drops.
Friday. This is the day after.
Yeah, this drops tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so
2 days.
This is week 1 of Lent. Still going strong.
You didn't mess up yet?
No, I do have to remind me.
Almost.
Yeah. You see what I posted on the story?
Your story.
Well, you tell me like the behind the scenes stuff and the personal stuff to start sharing that a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is like cringe for me. I have to really step out of my comfort zone to share personal stuff.
Yeah. That's you're growing. I like it.
But
being vulnerable with the audience, I like it.
Yeah, let's call it that.
Forced vulnerability. You hear me in the back of your head saying, just post it.
Just share it.
Just share it. Just share it. Well, sometimes we got to have that voice that tells us, don't share it.
Yeah.
Don't share it. Don't comment. Don't.
No, that voice is really strong. I don't have to worry about that voice.
Oh, well, not me. I have to tamper mine down.
Yeah.
I was born outgoing, I guess.
Is you going good so far?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
I committed to doing the rosary every day. That's my thing I want to do.
God.
So far, so good. So we'll see how it goes. But fasting.
Just getting started.
Fasting is not my favorite thing. My wife is still fasting. She's on like 50 hours by
But she's doing like the Fiat 90 or whatever.
Mag 90. She started January 1st, but she did a big fast. She does like one big fast a month.
Yeah.
I'm a horrible faster. She's very good faster.
Well, she's even big on like intermittent fasting, right?
Yeah, she does like 20 hours every day, basically Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Saturdays usually. Sundays is a feast day. We don't fast on Sundays. But.
Even during Lent?
Usually we give up TV. We have in the past watched a little TV on Sundays, let the kids kind of just like watch as a family. But I love that the TV is off. It's so quiet, just reading books. It's like your house becomes a little bit more, not that it's sacred, but I saw another post too. It was cool. Like what a family was doing for every one of their dinners was kind of turning the lights off and having by candlelight. It just creates like, even if you got littles to like push it, it just creates something special about coming together as a family and a meal. I'm like, that's a good idea. Like my wife has 1 million candles, just put them to good use, so.
Have you guys tried that yet?
Not yet. I just saw it I was like, going to bring it up to her. I'm like, yeah, we should try that, because we sit down every night and have dinner. So, but how to change up the monotony of, hey, we're sitting down and just having a meal.
Yeah.
We do a exercise, we go through their day. We call it Hallow Buffalo, which is what's, like a rose and thorn or whatever, or something good, something bad, and then something that they want to mention, something that was cool that happened.
Is that the buffalo?
That's the buffalo. I don't know why it's called the buffalo, but Hallow Buffalo at dinner every day.
Yeah.
And sometimes if we're not gonna have dinner, like in the car on the way home, when I pick the kid, if I'm picking the kids up and Katie's still doing stuff at school, it's just a good way to get them to be able to communicate and have that open lines of dialogue to, let us know what's going on, because you could tell like right away, like yesterday, I could tell there's something with Braden, how he was acting and what, like he didn't, his low was recess. Like usually his high is recess. So then it gives you an opportunity, if you're paying attention, to kind of enter into that and probe a little bit, just to ask some more questions like why. And then it leads to weird things like he didn't have enough air in his football, or so-and-so said this, or just little, things, but being open to it.
That's cool.
Yeah. Trying to learn, being parents is the hardest thing you can do. And to think that we're just born and you're a good dad or a good mom is naive. It takes practice. It takes hard work. And I'm always looking for different people to help ideas on how to help this situation or try to grow, because, we should always be trying to get better.
I heard one of the moms at our parish say, when your kids are young, you're physically exhausted. But when they get older, you're mentally and emotionally exhausted.
I bet. I can imagine.
And
yeah, they got a lot of
energy.
I believe her. They got a lot of energy.
I believe her.
Well, 10, my daughter's going to be getting into the teenage years pretty soon. I can picture it now. She's starting to get a little bit of independence already. So yeah, I can imagine.
It's, And we all, like you said, you got to figure it out as you're doing it. But with raising kids, it's so much easier when you can still exert control over them. I don't know what that next season's going to look like when they
don't listen, when
they
tell
have
them what
autonomy, and it's like, you're not a little kid anymore. I can't treat you the same way. You know,
it's a transition. I mean, every stage has its benefits and its downfalls. Obviously, it's like, when they can't walk yet, they're confined, so you don't got to chase them around so much. But then, you obviously want to get to the next stages. Every stage is something that's challenging or something you have to adapt. And each kid's different, which is, always, having a boy and a girl, and they're way different. It's just so, but they don't understand that. They want to be treated equally always. There's age difference. There's just a lot of differences, and kids don't really understand. They just want justice. Everything should be fair, equal. They don't have the gray or the nuance to try to figure it out. So I was trying to.
It's so funny how different boys and girls are.
Yeah.
Even at a young age. It happens daily, multiple times a day. The other day it happened. My little daughter, she's making, with her little tea set, she's making tea on the living room table. And my boy, because we had a party the day before, there was balloons still in the house. You would think it was Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
He's jumping on them. They're popping. He busted his chin. I mean, he's just all over the house. He's doing pile drivers on these things. And she's just standing there making her little tea. And I'm like, I didn't raise them to be that way.
No.
That's just who they are.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. I couldn't get her to do that. She has her moments.
Yeah.
But he's not sitting around making tea. He wants to build stuff. He wants to get energy out. He wants to, right? But the opposite of that is when you talk to people, it's like, boys are too crazy. They must have ADHD. They need a pill. This is too much.
No.
I'm like, it's just a boy.
Yeah.
That's what they do. That's what they're supposed to do.
And, there's major differences, not just in the sex, and like everything about them and their bodies and how they work and how they perceive things. We're different. We're complementary to each other. And, and they've done the studies on men and women in the Scandinavian countries where it's the most egalitarian, where people can choose which careers and which path they want to go to. Yeah. And in the countries where it's more egalitarian, the farther those divides are between men and women, as far as women tend more to go to careers around people and men around things. So that's
because they're more relational, empathetic.
That's just what it is.
And guys like figuring out problems.
Yes,
and
but the argument that in America a lot of times is that it's a hierarchy. It's keeping them down. But when you give that's what egalitarian means. They're free to choose. It's a lot of choice in Scandinavian, and they choose to go into whatever they want to do, and their choices is way more skews towards those careers like teacher, nurse, or those kinds of things. That's inherently it isn't like you told your daughter, play with the tea. Like, no, they just figure out how to do those things.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make her a girl, but that's just some of the things that they like to do. And the more you let them they'll do the things that they're most like.
And it's not just that they figure out how to do it, they gravitate towards it.
It's intrinsic.
She got it as a gift for her birthday. She's never seen this before. She's only 2, but I put it down and she just knew right away. Like, she's delicate, and she's mimicking what her mom does. It's
awesome.
It really is awesome. Yeah. You mentioned Scandinavian countries. We went to see Jordan Peterson on Monday.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. He's the one that always gets hammered about the difference between men and women. That's always like the thing. It's like, and it's okay to have differences with each other, but the point that whatever the differences are is just based on man, woman. It has nothing to do with all these other factors. It's like, well, there's, not enough CEOs or whatever these arguments are but it's a lot more nuance of a conversation, and he's always getting attacked on it. So it's funny that.
But culture, like, we don't have conversations that are nuanced anymore.
No, we don't.
We don't know how to do that. We fall into our little thought bubbles. We've memorized a couple statistics that reinforce what we want to think.
That women make 70 cents on every dollar. That's the stat that's been going out for a long time. But if that was true, whatever company that is, you should go to it and sue them, because that's illegal.
If that were true, then anyone who owns a company would rather hire a woman than a man.
You would think so.
Because
you could pay
they're going to get the job done, but for 30 cents less.
or it could be something way different or something more complicated, nuanced, or a conversation could be had about some of the factors about why that is. I mean, obviously the major thing is that women have children, then they leave the workforce and they come back. They're not steady working. That's a majority of it, a lot of it. Obviously, there have been roadblocks throughout time. We're not saying that that's never happened. There hasn't been times, but now is this isn't the 1970s. This is 2024. Things have changed so dramatically. Like if you look at college, I mean, college is majority women.
Yeah. You're going to get me on to Peterson before we want to get to Peterson.
Okay. Yeah.
So
let's jump to wherever you want to.
Because I love where you're going with this, but I'm purposely biting my tongue.
All right, let's go.
So we got a couple of things that we wanted to talk about today. We had the Super Bowl on Sunday.
Poor Dale.
We're going to, sorry, Sanders fans. We had the Super Bowl. There was the He Gets Us Super Bowl commercials.
Very, a lot of attention on that one commercial.
Yeah, you said there were 5, right?
Yeah, I think
5 variations or something like that.
3 or 5. I know they spent a lot of money.
So they had a few commercials.
$14 million. I think.
He Gets Us. They talk about Jesus. They represent Christians in particular ways. We'll get into that. Apple Vision Pros. They were released recently. People are starting to pick them up. Mark Zuckerberg, who is the CEO of Facebook, had something to say about that. Mark Wahlberg and Jonathan Rumi have been everywhere promoting the Hallow app, which good for them. Let's talk about that a little bit. And then, like I said, we went and saw Jordan Peterson on Monday. So we'll unpack that a little bit. He's going around on his We Who Wrestle with God lecture series tour. And that just, I'm still speechless.
Still thinking about it.
Still mind blown.
He helps provoke thinking. It's like that's what we should be doing. We should be interested in people to get us to think, not what to think.
Yeah.
Trying to inspire us to think about things differently and maybe taking a step back, not being top down. This is what you have to think. That people are tired of that. People want to think for themselves, obviously.
So what'd you think about the Super Bowl?
Overall, I wasn't that big of a fan of the halftime show. And I liked Usher. Back when
you had the
frosted tips, yeah, I remember. Well, funny story. I remember when Yeah came out, Usher, Yeah, that was like the hottest song. It's still hot. You play Yeah now, it'll get people pumped.
Okay.
And I was on spring break, Panama City, Club La Vila, which is like the largest nightclub. And I just remember that song came on and the place went wild. It was awesome. It was a great time.
Yeah.
Spring break.
It didn't do it for you this time, though?
The second half, it started getting a little bit better. It was just like real slow compared to now it's like more dancing. Like I just grew up on just people like singing and playing an instrument. There wasn't so much of like the dancing, which is, I guess, okay if you like dancing, but I like the music part of it. I just wasn't, I know a lot of people didn't like it. It's like mixed, like either it was so great or it was really bad. Like Ludacris was there, and what's his name?
Was Ludacris there?
Yeah, he's on the and the guy
the full perm.
Yeah,
did he?
Full perm. Dude.
Yeah,
and then the guy from Will.i.am from Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah, he was on too.
He was on there too.
Yeah, he had like a mask on.
Wasn't Little John in that?
Yeah,
Or am I thinking of a different song?
No, he popped up out of the crowd. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, he brought out. He brought some guests out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually enjoyed the
halftime show.
Yeah, because that was like you kind of said.
Yeah,
that's
it was
the music
nostalgic.
I was listening to when I was 8.
Yeah,
7.
Yeah, that's the how we talked about last time, the nostalgia stuff. That's what people. But as far as like the performance, I mean, the cool part was when he was on the roller skates. That was kind of cool. Alicia Keys. I don't know.
You can tell I didn't watch halftime show.
I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, the game was good though.
The play calling, I'm gonna just say it. The play calling was sketch at the least.
Yeah.
And Mike was saying, you want to share your little insight about entertainment and sports? How?
Oh yeah. So this is just my opinion, but there's a bunch of opinions about it. And the NFL is classified as entertainment, not a sport. So it's an entertainment, just like WWE wrestling. It's an entertainment classification. College football is classified as a sport. Like it's registered as a sport. NFL, not so much. So right there, it's like they have room to kind of write the script like everyone's saying and kind of
especially with the gambling part now.
Right.
It's like
a lot of money's riding on it.
It's so crazy. Like they're talking, like it was such an underground thing with the the gambling. Now it's front and center even on the screen as you're watching the game. Every commercial, it's like everyone's just betting, on their phones and stuff.
Well, so many of the plays, like clear, Mahomes would just get through like scotch-free. He'd run by a couple defenders. It's like, what's going on? Did these guys get the script? And they're like, okay, time to let him pass.
Yeah, you can't touch them.
Yeah, don't touch him. We got to get the repeat so we can work on the dynasty.
I did see something cool. I don't know if that's cool, but it's kind of funny that there was a streaker.
Was there?
Yeah, but they can't show it on TV, but there was a streaker. So I got this. Did you hear the story about it?
Oh, no, I didn't.
So the guy, there's a bet in Vegas about it, that there will be a streaker. So he goes, oh, okay. So he went and bought a ticket for 10 grand, put a bet for 10 grand that there's going to be a streaker. So he ended up doing a night in jail, got arrested, but he ended up making 10 grand. He made 10 grand. He bet on himself about the streaker, made a bet and cashed the bet. Yeah, he came out on Instagram, was talking about it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. He's like, I know what it feels like to be Taylor Swift. I'm like, all right, come on. Now you're going a little too far because you took your clothes off, you ran on, like, now like performing in front of 70,000 people. But
yeah.
But hey, there's always an edge. That's the point, is that someone will find an edge. If there's gambling, someone's going to find the edge. Mm-hmm. Usually it's the house. The house usually wins. They have the edge built in, So.
Well, there was a bet going on that I think the over-under was 5.5 times Taylor Swift would show up on screen. I'm like, okay, so if I control when she goes up on screen, I'm placing that bet.
Or the national anthem or any of those kinds of timed weird things.
Yeah.
Somebody has... But I guess they're really sophisticated. They can watch and see where the bets are coming from, how much and frequency, and they get alerted on stuff where if it seems too much or someone has some kind of inside information, and you can get prosecuted.
That's why I stopped watching professional sports.
It's not as serious as it used to be.
No.
I used to be crazy about it, but yeah, it takes the fun away from it, to be honest. It's just doesn't seem so,
It does.
trustworthy.
Like to Mike's point. It just feels too scripted. It feels too much like entertainment. Yeah. And they're in it to make money. Like these owners, the stakeholders, they're in it to make money.
It's like mainstream media.
So like they're going to leverage however much they can.
Yeah.
Like, did Taylor make it to the game? How many times does her boyfriend show up? Are they going to win? Of course they're going to win because they want her on the field and they want him up receiving the trophy.
Did you see how much money the NFL has made extra this year because of Taylor Swift?
Really?
$331 million. That they figured out what the number was. Yeah. $331 million is what she brought to the NFL.
Wow.
So there was a reason. Yeah. There's 331 million reasons why.
Now, I will say, I like the regular season because the regular season is just there's always something happening. People are like, well, this game was scripted. And I'm like, I don't think so in the regular season, at least. The playoffs are where it gets a little
fishy,
sketchy.
Even if it's not scripted, it just takes one ref.
That's all it does.
It takes one call, one play, it doesn't have to be super obvious. I mean, people are obviously biased. You're gonna tell me people don't have their own picks, not whether they're betting or not. But I heard a ref explain it like this: like if someone's real rude in a little high school basketball game, and you start talking stuff to the ref and say something to him, you don't think that ref is going to somewhere in his unconscious is going to make sure that you lose somehow and call every time you do something bad? That's not the best strategy to go at the ref. That ref now is gonna call you for everything. He's gonna be watching.
All it take is one offensive holding and you're back 10 yards.
That's it, period.
Yeah.
Which is what happened to them.
On a big play.
I saw a video my brother was watching, and it was a mob boss talking about how NFL games can get rigged. And he was talking about, for example, he was like, here's the thing. When I would loan money to somebody or my bookie would do something, players have gambling problems. So if they didn't have the money to pay me back, he'd be like, all right, here's how you're going to pay me back. You're a quarterback. The first 3 times you get the ball, it's going to the other team. That's how
they used to do it. But now it's just totally different. Now it's just it's bigger. It's not, that's how they got the college athlete. That was a big deal. I mean, that's been documented. It's not like it's a conspiracy. There's been people arrested in the NBA. They had a big problem with a couple refs.
Oh yeah, there was that old documentary with that one ref that was
stolen or something.
Yeah. Swinging games.
Yeah, of course.
So they cut that. Who was that football player that started praising Jesus and they cut him?
Stroud.
So they cut him real quick, but then Taylor Swift's friends end up there conjuring demons at the Super Bowl, and that makes it to the Megatron and to
with her
live TV
with her upside down cross necklace.
Yeah, what's the deal with that?
Yeah.
You trying to tell me you couldn't switch off of that? Like, why are you showing that? And what kind of message are you trying to send?
And it looks weird. It's like she was like, just the hand gestures look like she's like, look, and her eyes, when you watch the clip, it's just so weird. It's creepy.
It's almost like she got a cue, like, okay, you're going to be on screen. All right, do it.
Yeah, it's weird. The timing was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, Taylor Swift.
But that's the culture.
She's just there chugging beers. How about you just chug some beers and have a good time?
Yeah.
Got to be like promoting, that's part of what the issue in the culture in general. I just saw Father Leo, the cooking cooking priest. He shared a video, like a cartoon. It's literally like Lilith was called, like the demon, like flipping. It's a cartoon flipping the whole creation story upside down. That the devil was, the story that the devil was the good one. God was trying to keep the angels down. The rebellious thing it was for humanity. Like this is aimed for like 7 and 8 year olds, like trying to show that like you should be a Satanist and a demon. And he's like, what is going on? It's like this is everywhere, whether that's Disney or different movies. It's like it's so hard to avoid. So as what we're doing as a family is just like, we have to be on patrol about what our kids are watching, especially even on Disney Plus. You have to monitor what is actually, you think, oh, it's Disney, yay. And like, no, they're sneaking in all kinds of things that go against our Catholic faith or things that are just, standard, normal things that would have been 20 years ago. Now it's like the envelope just keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed. So it's like, you got to be more vigilant to make sure that your kids because it doesn't take much to traumatize a kid. Like you can't get rid of those images. You can't get rid of those ideas. They're in there, garbage in, garbage out, and so it's got to be vigilant, but it's something that we have to be focused on.
So one of the big things that happened at the Super Bowl, a couple big things, which transitions us to our next story. He Gets Us and Hallow.
Oh.
He Gets Us, which is an organization that promotes relationship with Jesus, quote unquote, supposedly. I don't know too much about them. Aside from that, I've had encounters with them at a couple of different conferences that we've gone to, Christian conferences. But one of the commercials that's getting a lot of heat is different Christian personalities, individuals washing the feet of others who seem to be kind of, if you will, on the victim side of popular culture narrative, whether you're an illegal immigrant or fill in the blank, right? A drug addict, You've got Christian figures that wash the feet of these other figures. It's, guess what did you think about that?
I saw it at first. I'm like, oh, okay, that's nice. And then I'm like, wait a minute. The very last image, looks like it's a Catholic priest.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, you're missing the story though about the washing of the feet. Like Jesus didn't go from town to town washing people's feet. It was a one-time event in scripture, and it was a very purposeful way that he did it, which was on the Holy Thursday. It was the institution of the priesthood. It was part of hanging out with his disciples. He was washing the feet of his disciples. It wasn't like strangers he was washing feet. Yeah, he was serving and he was healing. But what I thought is that they're trying to make Jesus seem like, do whatever you want to do. He's going to love you.
Everybody.
Do whatever you want to do. Jesus will love you the way you are. You don't have to repent. You don't have to believe. Just, you're okay the way you are. Jesus loves you. I'm going to wash your feet, which is basically saying, like, blessing that sinful behavior. That's what it felt like to me.
I didn't like, and for all the reasons you mentioned, I would add to that, I don't like the idea of taking Jesus and his message and using it to prop up this narrative of people being either victims or oppressors. And if we try to politicize Jesus, then who are we trying to reach out to? Like, the authentic Christian isn't going to be drawn to that type of commercial or messaging. And then the people who might enjoy that victim oppressor narrative, you're just giving them a fake version of Jesus. And so you're not actually helping them. So like, as an institution, he gets us, who are you actually trying to appeal to? And what's the motive behind you putting out a commercial which cost you millions of dollars on one of the most popular American programs that's out there today? I mean, next to Mr. Beast. But I mean, you're talking the Super Bowl, that's primetime TV. What are you trying to accomplish? So
Seems political.
yeah, it definitely seems political, but it's political on one side, right? It was political on issues that tend to be left-leaning. That's inappropriate.
Yeah.
Because Jesus doesn't just love everyone for who they are. He loves everyone, and because he loves you, he calls you to conversion.
To repentance.
He calls you to repent and to convert and to be a part of the fold. So Jesus loves you, calls you to repent, to convert, to become a part of the fold. That's authentic love. This false sense of love that was propped up is false compassion. It's not authentic. It's not what Jesus calls people to. We're talking about the same Jesus that used to like flip tables in the temple. We're talking about Jesus who used to call out the Pharisees and the Sadducees for being too strict and rigid on the law. Like Jesus has lines. Yeah. There's boundaries to how you can relate to him.
And you don't have to go much farther than the scriptures to see a situation just like this with the women caught in adultery.
Yeah.
What does he say? Sin no more. Then go on. He's like, he who has no sin throw the first stone. But hey, go sin no more. But there's none of that message, and he gets us. It's just okay, cool. There's no second
You
part
have to be
to it.
accepting of everybody.
You have to be accepting about it and then wash their feet, because Jesus did come to serve, but he came to serve in the fact to help other people to grow in relationship with him. And Jesus, he's not tame. He's wild. He's calling us to radical change.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's calling us to. It isn't calling it to just staying. He loves us the way we are, but he loves us so much that he doesn't want to keep us where we're at. He wants us to be better.
I'm going to nuance that.
Yeah.
I'm going to push back a little bit. He doesn't love us the way we are. He loves us for who we are.
Yes.
But the adage is love the sin or hate the sin.
Yeah.
That strikes very true with Jesus. Jesus won't let us love a false version of himself.
Yeah.
And so if you're promoting a false version of Jesus, who are you helping? Yeah. You're certainly not advancing the gospel, and you're not helping people come into relationship with him.
You're confusing people.
You're confusing people. And woe to those who confuse others, right? Better that a millstone be tied around your neck and throw it into the water than to confuse the littlest of us. Yeah. And so Jesus won't let us love a false version of himself. Yeah. And conversely, right? Jesus isn't going to love us and just ask us to stay where we are. He's going to love us and call us to something greater, because that's why we were made.
Yeah, he invites us. He doesn't tell us what to do. G.K. Chesterton says that the devil is in ambiguity. And that's what's going on in our whole society and culture, whether that's the messages that are coming down from the top in our church, which sometimes seem ambiguous. And it's hard for us as lay people to try to discern what is going on. And then the culture is already doing it. So it's just hard. Anytime where it's like, the message is kind of mixed message. It's like, well, which side are we supposed to go on? You're setting people who aren't formed, like, oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, Jesus loves them. You do whatever you want to do when you want to do it. If it feels good, do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, that's not gospel. That's not the Jesus of the gospel.
No.
So it's like it can be, yes, it's great to see that Jesus is front and center if someone's going to spend a bunch of money, but on the flip side, you get the blowback from the other side. So I don't know if it's even worth it, even if the message was good and it was a great message. What do the haters say on the other side right away? You could have took the same Judas message. You know how much money you could have spent and fed the poor. I've heard that all on social media. All that money that they spend on an ad, why don't you be like Jesus and feed the poor? That's Judas's argument that he makes, that you busted the perfume. Yeah. All that money we could have took it and we could have fed the poor. And what does Jesus say? Well, you're always going to have the poor with you. I'm here. He's doing something good. It was a prefigurement of anointing for his burial. There was a reason for it. But, that money, people don't realize what money, like say that ad was actually good, like the Hallow app that we're going to get to, where people were moved. They spent that money on the app. Now it's the number one app. But now all it takes is one person.
Yeah.
One person to convert, and it was rich and had money. Now that person's going to, whatever that little bit of money was, $7 million, now it turned into $50 million. They said their whole life about it. Or what about just one person making it to heaven? What is that worth? These are some of the things that culture is going to, we have to see that's what always is going to come in. Anytime we spend money trying to promote the gospel, is that, you could be really using that money to help actually feed the poor.
That's a weak argument. And you're right. I've seen that argument, and not just with this.
Yeah, Pat McAfee was hammering it on.
Was he really? Yeah. Take that money and use it. the church gets leveled, that accusation and that argument is made against the church a lot. Look at all the art and the treasures that the church has, in particular the Vatican has. If they were to sell it, give it to the poor. Okay, but what you've done is you've reduced people to their basest needs, to the material needs, to just having food, shelter, clothes. That, of course, is important. And the church is one of the largest charitable organizations in history, currently and extended into time. So we are attending to those needs, but the human person is more than the base needs that we each require. We're more than just food, shelter, clothing. We're mind, we're spirit, we're intellect, we're emotion, we're psyche. I mean, there's a whole dimension to us that has to also be fed. Yeah. And so the message is important to also promote. And in this case, spending money on a message is important because you're feeding that side of who we are. You're drawing us closer so that we can assent our minds and our wills to God. And so it's very important. St. Paul himself, he went all over, outside front, started in Jerusalem, went all over the region. That took money, right? That took donations. That took resources. Sure, he built tents and he did what he had to do to supply the best as he could for himself, but he also went around and relied on the charity of those that he went and ministered to. Important not to forget that we need the physical stuff, but our spiritual, our intellectual also has to be fed.
Yeah, but even just the physical argument doesn't make sense because the church doesn't charge anybody to come to see those things. That's for everybody, not for the rich or just the poor. It's for everybody. It's like, you know how much money those churches have brought Europe in general from tourism? People aren't going to Europe because, the Eiffel Tower. No, they want to go to Rome and Florence and Barcelona. They want to see these churches. And what that does is that one church that's like the community built that. It wasn't like the church did it. The church is made up of us. Well, it's like all these people.
What we're talking about is the value of art.
Yeah.
Art has the ability to raise us up. So we're not constantly looking down, but we physically, and these cathedrals, that's what they aspired to do. Yeah. We raise our heads and our eyes up. And in so doing, we're looking up to God. We're kind of transcending ourselves. And that's what good art does. That's what good Catholic Christian art does. It takes us beyond the mere painting, and it communicates the reality behind it.
Well, there's just one example to point to this point. Russia was converted by one person who went to the Hagia Sophia, who saw the church like, this is heaven. Went back to their country, brought Christianity. Right there is the whole reason. I mean, how many millions of people? Obviously kind of checkered right now, Putin and all this other Orthodox battling stuff. But at the end of the day, it's available for everybody. And like I said, you can't quantify it because it's unquantifiable. It's like, it's for God. It's meant to, like I said, ascend the mind and to help motivate people to want to be better. Like you see a beautiful painting, it could really move you, or a beautiful piece of artwork or a church. You go in there and have a conversion experience. That's my story. Yeah. I went into a beautiful church, and if it wasn't that beautiful and the music wasn't, it was like everything was perfect. The music was like St. Andrew's Church in Cal City is one of the most beautiful churches you ever see. It's 125 years old parish, and it's marble and stained glass, and the choir is beautiful. I went to one mass, and God obviously I had a miracle and had the grace, but it was all of it together. It was the beauty. It was like I was drawn in, and that's our secret weapon of Catholicism, that beauty will save the world. Beauty is the entryway into conversion. We can't always lead with the truth. You can't wash feet. You got to repent and do this. It's hard to lead with that. But if we lead with the beauty of Jesus, let me tell you about Jesus. You may have heard this and this, but do you actually know anything about him? He was like, he would have been your best friend, and he would have like listened to you. Like there's a bunch of different ways where beauty has helped guide people into the church, including myself.
Yeah. I love how you said that. How I'm hearing it and how I would maybe just nuance a little bit. As Catholics, we can't lead with doctrine all the time. Yeah. We love our doctrine, and it's good for us. But what we have to do is we lead where we meet the other person. And so sometimes people are at a level where art can speak to them and convey truth better than a conversation on doctrine can. Yeah. And so preserving the patrimony that we have, the art that we have, the culture that we have, the sacred spaces that we have, can invite people in to experience the beauty and the truth of who Jesus is, that can open their hearts up to have a doctrine conversation, right? So sometimes trying to start by throwing the catechism at people, not the best way to.
I don't know one person that's been converted that way.
I'm sure there are.
I'm sure there are.
I'm sure there are.
But you know, Dostoevsky said beauty will save the world.
Yeah.
And just take it to a smaller level.
Well, you wear a tool belt. Yeah. You put multiple tools in your tool belt.
Yeah.
You're not constantly pulling out the hammer.
But if you start, for example, you know, like on your block, if you start to make your house look nice, then you'll watch and see other people around. Like, you know, I don't want my house next door. The guy's got his yard real nice and this guy's all junky.
Yeah, if he could do it, I could do it.
It's like, yeah, then people start to get inspired by their example. Like, you know, that's how towns started. Like, we're going to make this beautiful. And then the next person makes it beautiful. Then it's like, that's how we interact and work in this creation. It's like God's creation is beautiful. That's how he made creation.
Yeah.
It's like, I just think we've lost that. And I think Bishop Barron and Word on Fire, they've really brought that to the forefront, that, you know, to lead with beauty. So when they put out their books or when they do their videos, their overemphasis on beautiful images and leading with the rose windows and those beautiful things, that this treasure that we have, to try to, you know, to evangelize that way. But obviously we still have to, you know, get them to the truth, but usually lead with love and beauty. Yeah. And then eventually you can, you know, let people know, like Peter said, to be ready to give a defense for the faith. But, you know, no one's going to listen until you listen to them and that you love them first. And then they'll maybe start asking you, why are you different? Why are you loving me? Why do you care so much? Well, you know, because I love Jesus and he wants to have a relationship with you, something like that. But yeah, doctrine's important. Obviously with this ad that we're talking about, they're just leading with what feels good or what people would want. You know, I just want to be left in my sin. You know, this is this time of Lent where we get comfortable. This is what the church, the genius, is calling us back to. We're sinners. We need to take a step back. Yeah, God loves us the way we are, but he wants us to let go of those things that are holding us back from him. Mm-hmm. And this is a great opportunity. We just had Ash Wednesday. We're reminded that, you know, with the cross, that we're sinners, but it's in the shape of a cross that we have a savior. And that's what's so exciting. I love Lent because it's like I need a detox on a lot of things, and I get to shift my focus and take a step back.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to encourage people, if you're an artist, whether you're creating music, actual paintings, drawings, writings, poetry, if you're using that to bring about and to manifest what's good, true, beautiful, if you're using it to bring about virtue and virtuous living, lean into it, because by doing it, you're actually mirroring the creator that created you, because he is one that creates, and out of him flows beauty, goodness, truth. And so whenever you exercise your craft, you're actually mirroring the Father.
Yeah. And it doesn't take much to help support those people. Like, share, subscribe to their stuff and help get their message out there. Like, someone sent us a message to Katie, like, they're an artist who does saints who are smiling, like kind of cartoonish, but for like schools, like you see the saints are always so serious and they're all like super crazy smiles. Like, no, the saints are happy people. We give a bad idea to the kids. Like, you want to be a saint, you got to sit around in the church and pray all day. Like, no, we're like blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati. He's smoking a pipe, climbing mountains, playing pool. But, you know, like, hey, look, I beat you at pool. We're going to play the rosary. Or if we're going to go hike, we got to pray, you know, on the way there. Like, no, that's how God wants us to go and to reach people using us and our own unique talents. But if we paint the picture of saints are only like praying all the time, which is good, obviously, but there's more to it than that. And by helping those artists, like, you know, there is an artist who actually does Jesus washing feet with all these different people. There's like a picture of San Francisco 49ers. It's like, that's her thing. But she was, I don't know, I didn't read the whole comment, but she was like, it could be her foot washing, like, be trademarked. She was like arguing against that. It was like against her trademark, because she has, I guess, a trademark, I forgot what it's called, Salt and Gold collection or something, where it almost looks like Jesus, Jonathan Rumi Jesus, and he's down, and it's like it's like a couple hundred different pictures of different people, soldiers or people like in the commercial. Mm. But it's just, we can really support and encourage these starving artists who are trying to push beauty of the Catholic faith or Christian faith. It doesn't take much to you know, to support them or like them or share their stuff and like be inspired by it. You know, I love art. I wish I can have, I wish my wife and I can agree on a piece of art. I want a big piece of art, because there's something about actual art that someone created, like if you hang it on a wall versus like a print or like a poster. But actual art, there's something that it does to you, that if it connects with you, that it helps inspire you and motivate you. At least it does for me.
Well, I feel it, and I'm sure others feel it. We live in a culture that oversaturates and overstimulates us, but that doesn't inspire us. And so we hunger for inspiration, and good art can inspire because it's a reflection of the divine.
Yeah.
So again, if you create art in any way, lean into it because you're reflecting the creator. And that's what we all seek. We all have that God-sized hole in our heart. Art helps to it's like a salve. It helps to soothe and to comfort us because it's a reflection of God that we're all yearning for.
Amen.
I'd love to have a piece of artwork in the house. I can't afford legit artwork, but
I know my wife and
I want my kids to be surrounded by it. I want people when they walk into my house to be inspired and to know like this is what we stand for, because art's also a reflection of who you are and where you are in that season of life.
I did buy a camera, so right now above my couch I have 3.
I saw some of your pictures. They're pretty good.
I have 3 pictures.
You got to see what Bobby's doing here, Mike.
I have 3 pictures that I have from before that I took that I have. That's what the art I have right now is just some, and it's like from my camera phone.
Yeah.
I have like an angel, like around my yard. I took some pictures. I had like some acorns that was like in the shape of a.
Bobby's going to start his own Etsy shop. Start selling
I just like to be inspired. It's like, I took a bunch of pictures at the shrine, and I don't know, I'll share them, but it was like the light, like the sky, it looks like I have a filter. It was that I just took the picture. It was so like, I spent like 2 hours out at the shrine by myself.
Yeah.
Like just taking pictures and praying and just like taking it all in. It was awesome.
So the other commercial was the Hallow commercial. And that was, maybe give a description of what it was.
It was Mark Wahlberg and Jonathan Rumi, just saying a basic, it starts off like a puddle, like some water, like some reflection.
It was
and
baptismal font.
Was it? You're right. Yeah, it was. Puddle. It's just a puddle. I just
dipping his hands in a puddle and busting himself.
I just remember the first
He's
shot.
one with nature. That's what
it was. One with nature. Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, Mark Wahlberg, Jonathan Rumi, and Hallow, which is confusing because it's like the Hallow, but it's Hallow. Hallow be thy name. But we've been on the Hallow train for a while. Like, I know Katie and I, we've been praying.
Well, let's break down the commercial.
Oh, so the commercial.
Because it juxtaposes the other commercial. He gets us kind of politicizes the Christian message and is an obviously agenda driven.
This is just straight Christian message of prayer.
And what I liked about it, if I could jump in here and say, it wasn't Catholics. We tend to get pigeonholed for rote prayers, written prayers, which there's nothing wrong with written prayers, but we have to get better at speaking from the heart and just seeing prayer as a way to talk to God, opening up to God, just like you and I can have a conversation. Prayer is no different when you direct it to the Father, when you direct it to the Son, when you direct it to the Spirit, when you direct it to the saints and Mary. That's what prayer can be, just conversation. And I liked that they just pictured Wahlberg in a church. Doesn't have to be in a church, but he's in a church and he's just speaking to God and he's offering up this really simple but beautiful prayer, lifting up the people who are watching, lifting up his family, lifting up families, praying for just blessing and grace to be poured out on us, blessings into Lent, just kind of speaking from the heart. I thought that was really refreshing to see within a Catholic context.
It was excellent. Yeah, we started that. They're pushing for their Pray 40 Lent challenge. Yeah. And there's so not, like I said, as Catholics, so we do get a bum rap of the rote prayers. We know the Our Father, the Hail Marys, the Glory Bees, which are great. And the Our Father is the prayer that Jesus taught us. And you can spend your whole life on just that prayer if you just focused on all those words. And the Hallow thing that they're doing for Pray 40 is based on a book that I started to read, He Leadeth Me by Father Walter Cizek. He's Polish. But what he said was his description of prayer was excellent. He says, prayer isn't necessarily the words. It's being in the presence of God. It's just calling God to be with you and not even saying, like he did 5 years in solitary confinement and 20 years in a Siberian labor camp. And this guy kept his joy and he kept his peace and he surrendered to that divine providence, which is the hardest prayer to prayer. And then this Pray 40 is getting to the end of which is surrender. It's all about surrendering our wills, and that's what the Our Father is your will, not mine. That's the hardest prayer to pray. And that's why, it's like, it's easy to just say rote prayers, but it's harder to talk sometimes from our heart, to give God our emotions, our things that we're going through, to give him, the things that, we're embarrassed about, or the things that are on our hearts. It's like, it's a lot easier just to say words that someone else wrote, but having a conversation, especially that's vulnerable and opening you up, especially to God, even though it's, you know, like no one else is listening but God, but it still is so vulnerable to say, you know, I'm struggling with this, or I'm having a hard time with that. I can't believe I yelled like that, or when I did this. But God wants to enter into those parts of your heart, or those things that are holding you back, or those troubles, or your worries, or your joys, or the good things. And he just wants to share with it. He wants you to share it with him. And he wants this back and forth, this surrender of, hey, not my will, but your will.
Mm-hmm.
A lot easier said than done.
Very, but important that it get done. And it's a lot easier to do than especially if you're not used to it.
Yeah.
If it's not a habit or a skill that you're practicing, we can kind of build it up, and it's going to take so much more energy, or I don't know how to do it, or there has to be a structure, or, you know, we kind of make it out to be more than it is. It's nothing more than just turning towards God. So you mentioned the Our Father. The Our Father, yes, it teaches us how to pray in the sense that it gives us words, and it orders them in a particular way. It also gives us structure. So when we turn to God in prayer, and there's different ways to do this, it could be very simple. It could be as simple as acknowledge God for who he is. Our Father. You acknowledge his greatness. You offer God thanks. Thank you for whatever the blessings are that you have in your life. You make your petition, right? Lord, I want to ask you that you can help me with this thing. And then you give thanks, right? You place your trust in him, right? So you do prayer by acknowledging God for who he is. You give him thanks. You give him glory. You make your petition, and then you place your trust in him. That can be as simple as your prayer is. And it's not going to take you that much time to do. It's going to require that you be vulnerable, to your point.
Yeah.
It's going to require that you open up, because God already knows what's on our heart. What he's asking us to do in prayer is to actually turn towards him and to confide in him, right? I love the picture of Jesus standing at the door, knocking, right? There's no handle on the outside of the door. God doesn't force himself on us. He doesn't force himself into our lives. But what he does, you've said this before, like a gentleman, he knocks on the door of our heart, and from the inside we can open and invite him in. Yeah. That's what prayer can be. It can be this, just the opening of the door to let God and his grace come in.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard sometimes to pray when things are going good, because we don't need them. It's like, oh, everything's going so great, God. That's why you have to cultivate the habit and that practice of just an everyday thing, because you're going to have your good days and your bad days. If you're only going to seek God when things are going bad.
But it could be equally as hard. So it could be hard to pray when things are going good, because things are going good. You're on your high horse. I don't need to pray. Why do I need prayer? Yeah. It can be equally as hard to pray when things are going bad, because you fall into self-pity. You want to shake your fist at God because you don't understand what's going on. Yeah. When in fact, you need him in both times. He wants to share in your joy when things are going good, but he wants to help you carry the cross when things are going bad.
Yeah, reading that book, it's like, I just tried to think, like, what would I do? He was a Jesuit. He literally volunteered to go into the Soviet Union, knowing this is what's going to happen. And he was joyful about it. When he heard the call, he's he felt it was from God himself to go into Russia after, the Germans already invaded, and to go there. But he spent 5 years in solitary confinement, and he did it, and I've read a lot of books about the concentration camps, or Man's Search for Meaning with Viktor Frankl, or the Gulag Archipelago, or all these different things. And a lot of the reason why I've been attracted to those kinds of books is because I always think about, what would I do in that situation? Would I be strong enough? And all of them say the only reason why they survive is that they kept that hope alive. So many people would lose hope, and when we have no hope, we perish. It's like, they're real quick to, 5 years and no windows, no, like a 5x5 cell, and no sound, no nothing, no one to talk to, by yourself. And what he did is that he just surrendered every moment to God. And then he found a way to build in routines, but all his life, he had been preparing himself for that moment. And that's what God's doing with us, is that all the things that we've gone through in our past are preparing us for right now. So for him, it was like he would just swim in a cold lake for no reason at all, just training his will. He just started, one year he did, instead of going home from the seminary, he stayed by himself the whole summer just to see if he could be lonely in a room by himself. So he was almost like God, he was training himself. And that's what that's what God does in these trials and these things that we're going through, is to help us prepare us for the next thing that's coming through. It's hard to pray through the trials. David, not being chased by his own son, trying to kill him. And it's okay to cry out to God, to wrestle with God and to ask him why, but never to lose that faith. We can question and ask questions like, God, why? I don't understand. Help me understand, but not say, oh, and being mad and being weird about it, but being, trusting in it. Like, I don't understand it. Please help my unbelief. I believe, but help my unbelief in this situation. I don't think this is my will, but ultimately everything that's happening right now, I know I said that before and I kind of got it confused, but when I read books like this, it's like everything that happens is God's will, because every moment, the only moment where God acts is right now, the present. So the moment is here, God's will. And it's hard to understand that. Another book I read that helped hammer that home is Abandonment to Divine Providence, is that every moment it's God's will. And once we recognize that he is here in this moment for a reason, and we're talking right now, for God has us here for a reason, talking. And once you understand that every moment is purposeful, then you can make it more important and be focused, or be like how not waste it. If everything has a purpose, then everything matters. If nothing has a purpose, then nothing matters. And I don't want to live in a world where nothing matters.
As you're saying that, the line that's coming to me is, do not be afraid. It's one of the most quoted things that Jesus says in scriptures. Do not be afraid.
365 times allegedly. I never went and counted, but one for every day. That's a good thing.
And I can't help but think, because we're talking about Hallow, which is a Catholic app, and as of this podcast episode, it's like #1 in the App Store, which, praise be to God. That's amazing that that's the case, and more blessings to that whole team. I can't. People get down on social media a lot. They get down on social media because it could be a dumpster fire.
And a time suck.
It could be a time suck. It could be all these negative things. But you know what social media is? In large part, it's a reflection of who we are interiorly, right? The algorithms are set up to keep us engaged. And so they're going to show us the things that are going to keep us online the longest. And when you look at the majority of the stuff that is promoted and trending, and it tends to be stuff that stirs up anxiety. And it's a reflection of the anxiety that's within us, because our hearts are unsettled. There's a restlessness in each of us, right? We're all fallen. We're all susceptible to sin. We're all sinners. And it's curious that we've created this technology that is a mirror of what's going on in our hearts. Why else isn't the top trending thing on X or on your Instagram feed or Facebook, why aren't they just the positive, stories and the, kid saves puppy and girl does good and this and no, it's always the stuff that stirs up anxiety.
Shootings and disasters.
It's all the negative, because on some level it's resonating with what's going on in our hearts and it's fueling it. And the Christian message, and why I take umbrage, I kind of take offense at he gets us approach to the gospel versus the Hallow approach. It's Christianity is about, do not be afraid. Don't fall for the chaos of the world. Don't fall for the anxiety that the world can produce, right? Instead, know that there's a God who loves us, who is in fact the Prince of Peace, who wants to be invited into our hearts, who wants to help heal the wounds and the scars that are within us, who wants to make us better today than we were yesterday so that tomorrow we can be even greater. That's who Jesus and who God is. And that's what he wants for us. And so we have to be careful why Lent is so important, because it's a period to detach and detox from those things that the culture kind of is surrounding us with all the time, so that we can realign and recenter on who God is and what he wants for us.
Yeah. And, I heard a good line. It was like, Lent, we have to remember that we are broken. We're broken, but the good part is that if something's broken, the piece is already there. You can put it back together. But the good analogy I like is that when your car breaks down, you want to just go buy the pieces yourself and you try to go fix the car. I know I can't do that. I have zero mechanical ability. I want to bring it back to the dealership where the car came from. And that's us. We're the broken cars that need to go back to God who created us. So this Lent is a good time to recognize that's what Ash Wednesday is like. Look, the ashes we're dust. We're going to go back to dust, and it's in the shape of a cross. We're sinners. We have things that we're created this way. We're selfish. We do things we're not. Like St. Paul says in Romans, we do the things that we don't want to do. I don't know why I do them, but I do them. But it takes that grace. But we have to surrender to God and go to the Creator who wants to fix us, whether that's confession or spending time in prayer or whatever that is. But
I like that car analogy.
I heard it was Father Connor Danstrom on his. It was good. It was a good analogy. I haven't heard it. He's at UIC at the St. John Paul Newman Center. He's actually
chaplain there.
Yeah, and I was like, man, it makes sense because even if you take it to your corner mechanic guy, like your car, it's like, you never know like what they're going to charge you, or who he is. Like the dealership, yeah, you may wait a little bit longer, you may pay a little bit more, but it's guaranteed. Like you feel good about it, then you bring it back to the dealership. Hey, they're the ones that made it. They know all the parts about it. I don't have to worry about some parts coming from Temu or whatever, And
you got more faith in dealerships than I do.
Yeah, I guess. I just have more faith in God. That was the analogy, Khalil.
I'll take my car to Mike. Mike, what's going on with my car?
Yeah. You don't want me messing.
So I like this. So this transitions us to our fourth topic, which is the Apple Vision Pros just got released. And you just showed me a video before the podcast. Mark Zuckerberg he's a little bitter.
A little bit.
That Apple put out this device because for those that don't know, he's got the Oculus line.
Quest or whatever. Quest 3.
Quest,
yeah.
okay.
I think it's Quest 3 is the new one that's coming out.
So the Quest line, they're trying to create their own metaverse. They're heavily invested in creating this alternate reality. But he used a word that I'd like to just take a couple minutes to unpack with you. Mixed reality. I hadn't heard that before. And we're talking about, what the world wants, what the culture wants, why Lent's a good season for us to detox from some of that stuff. But again, what the world is trying to do, and a lot of these people are just trying to turn a quick buck, but they're doing it in a way that resonates with us, right? Or else it wouldn't be popular, wouldn't sell.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to create this mixed reality. What are your thoughts on mixed reality?
I think that like a lot of people just are gonna. I think we already have a crisis of loneliness and people retreating on themselves. There's been all kinds of studies about friendships are way down. Like how many people have like close friends they just don't have. Like having these technologies have their advantages, but we have to also recognize that there's these disadvantages, whether that's the kids at school on just screens in general, and coming out of COVID, about all the people who haven't had the experience of how to have interpersonal relationships and talking to somebody face to face. Like today I posted something about how being attacked by Protestants. Every time I post something, it's like, you're a devil worshiper, idolater, Mary, you're going to hell. Like that's just like a Tuesday. It's like a Tuesday. So I just posted a picture of a cat smacking another cat. And it's like, every Catholic post, that's me getting whacked. And the song I played was, "Why Can't We Be Friends?" Like that's the point of this. Let's be friends. There's so much loneliness. There's so much brokenness. There's so much despair that people want to lock themselves in a room with the goggles on their face so they don't have to look at anybody in their houses. To go into a fake reality, because it's not really reality. It's artificial. It's not true reality. I don't care if it's mixed or whatever he wants to say. It's like that movie Ready Player One, where it's like they don't care that they're living in garbage dumps as long as they put their things on and they get to escape. That's what it's an escapism. That's the ways that we handle our problems in this day and age. We don't want to head on. We're going to retreat and be lonely, go into this fake mixed reality or this fake world of social media where people don't act like they would in the normal world, or they turn to drugs, alcohol, gambling, things of distraction, or, binge watching shows, just anything to not avoid, to wrestle with what's going on in your heart or in your mind or in your life or what's going on. It's just, I think it's a trap. I think it's ultimately, I think some good things can come from it, but having, The Simpsons predicted it. They had like 10 years ago, they had an episode. Did you see that? Where they're walking around on the street. They're starting the video. Did you see the guy getting out of the Cybertruck wearing it? No. I saw that. The guy, he gets out. It's like, so like the generation, he's in a Cybertruck. He's got him on. He's driving in the Cybertruck. Someone got a video. He's got him on while he's driving the car and he's doing this stuff while he's doing it. He gets out of the car, he's like, doing this, and everyone's like, what is going on? It's just, it's a novelty thing. I guess it would be pretty cool if I was sitting in my house to watch a movie and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you're saying, these things we like them, and it's like real easy to go down those things. It's like I can see myself if I got into it. I'm like, man, I wouldn't leave. I remember when Guitar Hero came out. I didn't leave for like a week from my house. I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world. I couldn't imagine having like a whole headset of like whatever I want, and like I'm already kind of crazy as it is when it comes to like the social media stuff. Yeah, I think it's a trap, to be honest. But it's definitely not reality, and but you can't run from this world. I'm sorry, you're gonna eventually have to. Take it off. You're eventually going to have to pay the bills or deal with the kid who's having problems or bad grade or your boss or whatever. You can put them on and pretend, but eventually they're going to come off, just like you're going to be sober one day or you're going to wake up and have a hangover and then you have to deal with life. It's the same thing. But yeah, if you have $4,000.
So I love technology. I really do. I love technology. I don't trust the creators of the technology. That's where I start getting a little just skeptical.
Well, Steve Jobs didn't even let his kids use iPads himself. So what does that tell you?
Mm-hmm. I fancy myself a pessimistic optimist.
Explain that.
In my heart, I'm optimistic. But
wait, what?
Yeah.
I'm a pessimistic optimist?
That's right.
So a both and?
I'm a both and guy.
All right.
Sometimes either or.
Either or.
Depending on the situation. In my heart, I'm optimistic about all things because I know God is in control.
But you're a realist?
But then you got to be a realist. You got to be careful because the evil one, what he does is he takes God's game plan, he takes God's creation, and then he tries to flip it. And sometimes all it takes is a little tweak, right? For him to trick us and to fool us into what Jesus says, there's a narrow path and a broad path, and the broad path is the one that many go by. And that's the path that the evil one wants us on. You got to be really careful and you got to stay sober and alert to stay on that narrow path that leads to eternal life. And so what they're doing and what I see in this stuff is really cool. I'm going to eventually get one of these things.
I'm sure.
God bless whoever's paying $4,000 to get the first version of this. Crazy. Why would you be an early adopter? I have no idea on something that costs that much. But if you got the expendable income, God bless you.
Well, according to Zuck, it's going to be 7 times cheaper. His thing. It's better and cheaper, 7 times cheaper.
Well, that guy can just go sit in a corner. I really don't care about Mark Zuckerberg. But then again, we are on Instagram, so
yeah,
more power to you, Mark.
He's going to throw.
Zuck isn't so bad, yeah.
Hey, I'm still waiting for Elon Musk and him to fight. That was a whole publicity thing.
Oh yeah, the UFC fight.
UFC, right?
Yeah.
So
we're gonna fight in the gladiators in the room.
I'm all for the Apple Vision Pros. I've been watching the reviews and this and that, and just the things that it can do. Really cool. What scares me in that broad path, people can just get suckered into living in this mixed reality. That's what it is now, right? But they always soft pedal things in. First, it was like alternative reality. So it's different than the reality. Now it's mixed reality where this is real and this is real. Yeah. They're going to get it to a point where it's going to feel real. We're going to relate to it as if it were real.
You know what drives all of the technology, whether that's broadband, the internet, all the stuff, is it's porn. Like every technology that's coming up, that's what it's geared towards. It's like literally that's where all the funding comes from. Like the majority of the internet is porn. It's like, I forgot, it's like 60% of the internet is porn. And like that's exactly what that's what the whole thing is. It's not by accident that Apple symbol is an apple with a bite out of it.
What does that have to do with porn?
That has to do with that's the devil's trick. It has to do with that. That's the company. It's their symbol is Eve biting the apple.
Oh,
that's their sign. We should know that that's what their goal is. Apple isn't it's a nice apple. Apple day keeps the doctor away. No, apple take a bite and you end up in hell. Yeah, it's like, but
you say that as I have my iPad, my iPhone.
Well, I do too. I do too. But I'm not worried about my faith, But the youth and people who are naive about this kind of stuff, they should be worried. But what I'm saying with the porn is that that's what the need for making everything faster and all this stuff. You're gonna tell me that they're not gonna use? That's what the headsets are for. You ever see the movie 6 Day? That's the next things like virtual reality, sex bots and stuff like that. That's already going on in Japan. They're already working on all the virtual reality stuff. That's for people like in Japan right now. The birth rates are so plummeted that it's something like the average majority of men aren't even they don't even want to have a relationship with a woman. Why is that? It's because they're getting this fake reality with their visions. It's weird, and I don't understand it. It's just natural in us, our instincts. I don't understand how that could be a substitute, but this is what's going on in like all over the world. Like the birth rates are plummeting. Like people are more content sitting at home, being on a Vision Pro or they already have VR sets and they already have stuff like that. So that's where I go to is I know that's why the internet is.
You're saying that's the end game.
Well, because that's what's been driving the internet. Like the reason to make the internet faster, that's why they did it at first, was to be able to put all the videos and all that stuff on. I forgot where I read that, but I'll look it up. We'll put it in the show notes. But that's what drove the internet like in the early on. Wasn't because they didn't figure out the this buying and selling stuff yet, like the Amazon and all that stuff kind of came later. But that was some of the first drivers of the internet was that. It still is now. Majority of the internet is that. Just do a Google search. It's crazy. I mean, I heard a good talk from, I didn't listen to the whole thing, but the 7 deadly apps that they have all these apps correspond to all our different vices. So Grubhub or DoorDash, that's gluttony. OnlyFans and this other crap, Bumble and whatever junk, the lust. And every one of this shopping and greed. Like there's app for every one of our vices, and it's like so easy because it's bing, 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 bing. It's like super easy. Like back in the day, you had to try to sin. Like now, it's like I sit back and sin like it's nothing.
Well, praise God that the number one app right now is Hallow.
Thanks be to God.
Let's praise God for that.
But yeah, it's just crazy. But technology, we're not Luddites. We're not going to sit up here and say all technology bad, but just to be aware of the pitfalls of if you're going to strap a thing on your head all day, maybe you're not going to be paying attention to your kids, even though supposedly you can still see through it and all this kind of stuff. But we know what happens when it's hard enough when you're engulfed just scrolling to.
Well, you and I had a text exchange, was it last week or the week before that? Technology was supposed to free us up more for recreation and hobbies and family life. That's how they sold it to people, right? The work week was supposed to get shorter because you're going to get a lot more done. What's happening now? It's like 9 o'clock at night and I'm checking my email, getting back to people. Legit. I mean, I'll get text messages from people as I'm in bed with work questions.
Yeah, it
just follows you everywhere now. And it's always on your mind.
And now everybody's working and working longer and working weekends. And now it's just, yeah, it's frustrating, but it's like, this is the world that we're living in. So, then I followed that up and I said, well, if St. Paul was here today, he had the Roman roads. Do you think that he would have an Instagram or YouTube channel? Of course he would. That Fulton Sheen was one of the best evangelists and he had a primetime show.
So practically speaking, how do we approach this stuff in a healthy way?
I'm not the expert on it. I'm having a hard time. I'll be honest. Like, doing the show and doing Instagram and doing YouTube and then doing my own show. During Lent, I'm trying to really hard when I get home, when the family gets home, to try to put the phone upstairs at least for a few hours and come back to it because it's really engulfing and that's how they make it. The dings, I put on dark mode. I think now I'm going to go to grayscale next where it's not as enticing to your eyes. But I struggle with it, so I'm not an expert. So if I'll take some advice. But it's just building in boundaries, just like everything, that there's healthy relationships on how to do things, but having, set up on, watching your screen time, they give you that report every week if it's up or if it's down.
Yeah.
But just setting up boundaries, to.
One that comes to my mind, because it's one that I practice, at least I try to, is am I being present to people? Because it could be very easy just to ignore myself and to get sucked into technology, whether it's for work or for recreation. But am I being present to people? So when I go home, is the first thing I do, I pull up my phone and do I start scrolling and checking stuff and maybe I am getting back on emails, maybe I'm making calls, texts, whatever, or am I spending time with my wife? Hey, how are you? How was your day? Actually hearing her out, actually engaging and being present to her. Is it going and spending time with my kids? Hey, like, the high-low buffalo thing or whatever it is that you're doing, like I'm present with them. So when they're looking at me, they're not just seeing dad's always on his phone, always on his iPad, always sitting on the TV, no, am I being present? And so that kind of, for me, becomes the boundary. If we're in a car, am I just going to sit there and play my phone or am I going to have a conversation with the person I'm in the car with? Yeah. If I'm having lunch, am I going to play my phone or I'm going to be present to people that are around me?
That's the weird.
So it's just like a measure of presence. Am I being present to people?
Yeah, at restaurants and stuff. Like we went out before the show And I looked around, I'm like, everyone's on their phone.
Yeah.
And you were just having a conversation, which I'm guilty of. Like, I'm gonna sit up here, like for me.
No, it's not about being on your high horse. It's just about.
It's just that I know that, there has to be a balance of, but like I said, we're just getting this thing going. It's like trying to get something small going. You gotta, it's like, you gotta put a lot of effort into it at first. But it's like, at the end of the day, am I going to say, man, I wish I would have got more followers or likes? No, I wish I spent more time with my kids and I was more present to them. And no, I've been convicted about it, so I need to definitely do a better job at it. But I think a lot of people struggle with that. It's just like.
That's sad. I'm glad you mentioned that because it's something that I've been thinking about. So many people, especially our generation and lower, their world becomes defined by how many likes, followers, subscribers they're able to get. And some kids are making money off this stuff. So it becomes like a viable thing in their mind.
Yeah.
But when it starts defining your self-identity and your self-worth, that's when you know you've been caught by the trap. That's when you have to detox and pull away. Are you able to do that? Are you able, to recognize and self-regulate? Yes, no. Do you have a tribe around you, whether it's your family, your friends, whoever it is, who can also call you out? Yeah. It's so scary. Like, if we're doing social media, I could care less about how many followers we have. What's cool about it is you have a platform to proclaim the gospel.
Yeah, creating good content.
You have a platform to help people draw closer to Jesus. That's all it means. Yeah. It's not a reflection. It doesn't improve the quality of my life or yours. No. It has nothing to do with that. It's like, I feel like I've got something to say to draw others into a relationship with Jesus that can hopefully improve the quality of their lives. The more people I can get that to, more glory to God. Amen. But when you see people getting, again, down that rabbit hole of, I only got so many engagements, I only got so many likes, so many people follow me, it must be a reflection of who I am and what.
Yeah, your worth.
That's scary.
Yeah,
like, just check yourself.
Yeah, I saw a good suggestion on a thing, especially during Lent, to help with that. Someone suggested to get like a St. Benedict medal and get it blessed and put it on your phone. Something to remind you when you look at your phone, or a cross, or something to help you to remind yourself of why you're doing what you're doing. And that goes just how you engage on the internet. That's not even saying that, okay, well, while you're there, how are you engaging other people? Are you being combative? Are you being nice? I like to be tongue-in-cheek sometimes. Sometimes people attack. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just say something, cheeky, a little cheeky.
Well, it goes to my earlier point. Sometimes it's fun to troll.
Oh, yeah.
Just because it's fun. It's not like bullying, but you got to check yourself.
Well,
it's like,
I think we're like,
is this going to do anything positive? If it's not a net positive, don't do it.
I like the meme. I really love the meme game is hilarious. Yeah. I just think it's funny because I like to joke and have fun. I think being Catholic doesn't mean we have to be in a church all day long, which is cool if you want to do that. And I'd like to spend a lot of time there, but we're in the world too, but we can still have fun talking about Jesus. You don't got to be like, condemning people all day long. That's the point. It's like, we can have fun and laugh, and we can laugh at ourselves. Like, some of the things we do are, from an outsider, it looks weird. Somebody put like, it was like a sharing, like a picture of a quote of Father Mike about that we get to participate in the life of Christ, and he's holding up the chalice at the altar. And the person said something like, this is so bad that you're teaching kids that they're not good enough, and that they're this blood worship and this and this and this. And then I'm like, it's actually worse than that. We actually tell people to sacrifice their whole entire lives for strangers. Like, just trying to be funny, but it's true. It's like, no, it's worse than that. No, we want them to sacrifice not just for God. No, we want to sacrifice their whole life. That's the radicalness of Christianity. It's like, no, it's more radical than you can imagine. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be radical. And that
you would have blew his mind if you told him we actually eat flesh and drink blood.
I didn't want to go there because the cannibal stuff. I was like, I was tempted that way, but then I saw my better angels was like, I could see this conversation, because that was a lot of what people thought about Christians early on, is that we're cannibals and we're doing this and then we're talking about body and blood and stuff like that. They literally believe that, so it's like one of those things. So it's like, but yeah, am I going to let that ruin my day? No, I'm like, I got thick skin, but I just think it's a waste of time that other Christians are going to attack other Christians. Like, there's the harvest. The harvest is abundant, but the workers are too busy fighting with each other about who's right and who's wrong. But when all the work is out there, it's like we're inward gazing or navel gazing too much instead of looking out. That, hey, you know what? Maybe we should go out. Maybe it's time to go Yeah, sometimes it's on social media, but most of the time it's your family, your neighbor, your coworker, those who are closest to you. Those Chesterton also said, like, it's hard to love your enemies because usually it's the ones who are closest to you. Like your enemies and your neighbors, they're like the same people. It's like those are the people that you you deal with the most, and those are the hardest ones to love, who are the ones that are closest to you, because you spend a lot of time with them. It's like, I left the toilet seat up and you didn't do that. Like these little things that we can really, drive wedges between a coworker. He eats lunch too loud, or, it's like these little things that we let get in between us. The people who are closest to us, it's like Pope Francis says, to go out and get to smell the sheep on you. It's like, you got to get out there with the people. If you want to, spread the gospel, you got to go where they're at, whether that's the internet or out into the street. But usually it's in our family.
What I love about The Chosen is that, this is on topic. It sounded like I switched gears right
now. No, I haven't seen I just said, because I haven't seen the new one yet. I hope you weren't going to do
I only saw the first 2 episodes, but I've seen a lot of clips.
Of the newest?
No, of The Chosen, period.
Oh, wait, whoa.
Man.
I'm with you on that. I've only seen 1 episode.
I've seen a few parts. It's really good.
Well, that's anathema around here. All right. Okay. All right. So what? So
Bobby's rebooting right now.
Okay. All right.
We just dropped.
Well, I'm just a big fan.
Dima's gonna love this because she's trying to get me to watch it.
What's stopping you?
Well, I'm a fan of the show. Like, I know it. I haven't sat down and watched it.
Okay.
Here's why.
Are you avoiding the? Because I cry almost every episode. Is that why? Are you avoiding the crying?
I try to avoid my emotions as much as I can.
All right. Well, I can see it.
Tears scare me.
I love crying.
#mention cry. But
real men
cry. Seriously. I don't like watching things that are still being released.
Oh, so you're like a bit like a.
It's got to be done. Then I'll start watching it. That's the only reason, whether it's stupid or not.
It's pretty stupid.
I don't like watching stuff that's still being released.
Oh man!
So like you remember Lost?
Yeah,
Lost was huge.
I never watched it.
Or Breaking Bad, or Sopranos.
I didn't watch any of it live.
I never watch it live.
You can't wait Sunday to Sunday?
No, I hate doing that.
Else?
No, I want to watch it at my own pace. If I want to watch 2, I'll watch 2. If I want to skip a week, I'll skip a week. Like that's my style. Okay, so that's why I'm not.
So what was what was The Chosen comment?
I completely forgot.
No.
The Chosen.
Yeah.
What I like about The Chosen is
from what you saw.
Yeah, from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And me and Rumi we talk all the time, so I know this for a fact. I like that it's using art and it's using a visual medium, not just to depict the passion, which that tends to be the focus of movies that depict Jesus, or they might take excerpts from the gospel, but it feels choppy because they try to do it like the scriptures, which I get. In some sense they want to be faithful to the scriptures. Doesn't always work out that way, but that's how they portray it in movies. With The Chosen, they've given themselves multiple seasons and they've taken some artistic liberty, but they're very honest about that. They're not trying to say that this is 100% to the scriptures, but what they've done is they've taken the person of Jesus and they've filled him out for people so that they can see Jesus spent most of his time having casual conversation, hanging out with his friends, developing these relationships, smiling, joking, teasing, just going from one town to the next. They made Jesus human for us.
He had to have been the most charismatic person ever. Why would he not be?
Yeah. Well, you lose sight of that.
Yeah.
Right? You lose sight of that. I'm not saying you in particular, but if all you know is Jesus in the scriptures and you don't let your imagination kind of play a little bit with who Jesus is and let those scriptures come to life, we've talked about Lectio Divina as a way of doing that, then Jesus becomes one-dimensional. And so you mentioned like the artist that paints saints smiling. One of my formation directors in seminary had a picture of a smiling Jesus, huge, in his office. It was a little creepy. Like the smile was a little too big. But that's what The Chosen's done, right? It's made Jesus come to life in a way. It's filled him out. He's no longer this one-dimensional, just going from one parable.
Makes him approachable.
Makes him approachable.
I think that's the biggest part. It makes him approachable. Like, I wouldn't want to hang out with Jesus. He doesn't seem all fire and brimstone and flipping tables or like what people say he is, because how many people are actually reading the Gospels? They see Passion of the Christ, That was, that's a totally different, story of the Chosen's not there yet. They're going to, obviously it's getting closer and closer as the season's going on. It's leading to the cross. We know that. But when I first saw it, I was like I said, I cry every episode almost. It's like, and I'll admit, I don't care. Whatever. I'm secure in my masculinity. But it's weird how they can do that through a story.
Jesus even cried. It's okay. You don't have to explain yourself.
Jesus wept. The shortest line in scripture. Yeah. But like how they film it and how they do it, it's like you feel like emotions into it. It's weird. I don't know how that's what a good filmmaker do is to set the narrative and to have you like you're in the story.
What's the deal with the guy who plays Peter? There was like some controversy there, some drama there.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't engaged it, but I saw
the way the last season was a cliffhanger was when Peter was walking on water, where it's my wife's favorite passage, where he takes his eye off of Jesus and he starts to sink and he saves him. But there's a whole liberty with the backstory between him and his wife and stuff. So, like I said, the liberty isn't that it's not scriptural. It's just no one knows for sure. These are gaps that they're filling in to fill the narrative of the story. Like we don't, the majority of Jesus' life, we don't have any information. From 0 to 30, he, lived a quiet life. We see him pop up as, born, presentation, lost in the temple at 12. We don't hear again until he's 30. So those lost years. And they've done other movies. I think Anne Rice did The Young Messiah that shows Jesus as a young child, trying to envision, help people to try to see like how he would live and what he would do. And the one scene I just saw a clip from Young Messiah was like Jesus is like 10 years old and he's talking to the rabbis and he's like, well, how do you know God was a carpenter? It was like, well, how would he know that how to make a ship and Noah and this? And he's like a kid, like obviously the way that God would talk to, somebody who was a high priest that like, he knows everything.
So where I draw the line, like the imagination and the liberties they take in The Chosen, if it's not contrary to scripture and tradition, then that's okay. Yeah. Because they're trying to flesh out and make Jesus more relatable for people. And hopefully it's drawing people to the scriptures. Hopefully that's the end goal.
Seems like it is.
Yeah, it's drawing people in a relationship with Jesus. That's great. All more power to them. Where you draw the line is when you start doing stuff like that Scorsese.
Yeah.
What was that movie?
Last Temptation of Christ.
Last Temptation of Christ. Where like Jesus has an affair with Mary Magdalene.
It's ridiculous. It's a Da Vinci.
That's that's when it's like
different.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is just taking liberties. Like people don't know, like Matthew's like autistic kind of like there's other things like we don't know those kinds of things. We just know what we're having, but it's just part of like.
I like that they made Matthew autistic.
Well, he's he's good into numbers. Yeah. It kind of makes sense. And what I like about it is that they also then like Bishop Barron's been on it. They've have a rabbi, they have some Protestants, some Catholics, and they sit around a table and they talk about these things about the season, like. About I like this thing and like scripture this.
You're saying commentary?
Yeah, they do.
I thought Bishop Barron was on it.
No, he did a commentary.
That's what I was like.
Yeah, where they're sitting around talking.
Cameo?
They're talking about the scriptural basis and theology about the stuff, which is the nerd talk that like we want to have about it. But like if you're just watching and sit back and you never knew anything about Jesus and you watched it, you'd be impressed. That's what I'm getting from it.
What they're doing is what's been done in previous generations. We're just doing it in a different medium. Yeah. Right now, we're doing it through television show. We're doing it through movie, right? But
Jesus,
Leonardo
was 6 hours.
Yeah, the Last Supper. Did Jesus actually look like that? Did they actually sit on one side of one table? Like, were they actually? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no, the artist took liberties to portray that event in a particular way.
But if it's
you could say that about any artistic representation.
Yeah, but if it's going against it, that's different. If it's blatantly like you said with the Last Temptation, that's different. But taking like there was a scene in the beginning, like I don't know, it was the first season where Jesus is just talking. He's like just coming onto the scene, and there's a bunch of kids around.
Yeah, I love that scene.
It's so because I'm picturing my kids.
He would do that,
and he would do that. Like I just. It's really painting a picture of like I said, like a lot of people are good with their imagination. Just like then you start praying, like you almost picture, like obviously you're not supposed to be thinking Jonathan Rumi, but before that it was like Jim Caviezel, like the picture of Jesus, like, but it just helps you to, because we're of senses, it's just, it helps us to try to imagine God in a more real way, obviously.
So serious question.
Yeah.
Why does Jesus sound like he has an English accent? That's okay. Whatever Jonathan Rumi's accent is, sounds like how Jesus would have sounded. It wouldn't be like Southern twang.
He's Egyptian.
If they tried doing Jesus like that, it just wouldn't work.
I know he's Egyptian and
is he?
Yeah. His dad's Egyptian. there's also a documentary that I watched, that Jonathan
Okay.
and Jesus, where he talks a little bit about it. His sister's in it.
Like the accent works. He makes it work.
Yeah, he's from New York and lived in LA and stuff like that. But it's good to see that a show about Jesus is getting all this publicity. The Hallow App is getting publicity. It's like
Bible in a year.
Like Dale was saying before, is this the thing? Is Catholicism next year? Is this going to be the cool thing now? You know, I've been hammering G.K. Chesterton. He's my guy. Is that right now? That's when the world is upside down. Virtue has all the exhilaration of a vice. It's like, it's rebellious to have a family and to sit at home and not, get on porn and, do all the things that what the culture is doing. Now it's like, okay, have a big family, go to mass, sit together as a family, go serve, go do these things. Like it feels like you're a rebel, like no one else is doing it. Yeah. So now like we're the punk rockers, like we're the ones on the fringe because everybody else is doing this. And it's like, it's got all the exhilaration of like, because I've always been a rebel. I'm the convert. I've only been Catholic 15 years. Like now it feels like I'm a rebel again. Mm-hmm. I'm like, all right. So I'm back in.
You're vibing.
I'm vibing it. Yeah. It's like, and I think that's what's attractive. How else is it getting popular? Because people are like, there's something to this. Obviously, there's something to it. Like, why is it number one app? How can Hallow be the number one app? If there's all this negativity about Jesus and religion and all this stuff, how could it be that? Because people are learning, they're searching and yearning for it. It's like there's such this God-sized hole in their hearts. And it's great that we have this technology. It's like Hallow it's a great app. It's like I couldn't rave about it enough. And right now I believe they got a 3-month free app. If there's a bunch of free stuff on it, even if you don't pay for the app, there's a bunch of free content. But right now I'm pretty sure they have a 3 months for free. And it's got, sleep meditations. It's got liturgy hours. It's got different Catholic music. It's got artists. It's got Bible studies. It's got 1,000 different things that you can do. And actually, right now, the school is doing the Pray 40 Challenge, and they have Let with the Saints and focusing on the fruits of the Spirit. Mm-hmm. So like yesterday, they listened to a podcast from Saints Alive on St. Valentine's Day. And they're using this medium, like they're telling the story of the saints. Like before, it's like, read the story of the saints. It's all born in 19, blah, blah, blah. Like kids don't, like that was
You're going to lose them.
Yeah, it's like, oh, do saint reports. Okay, he did this and he did this. But when you can tell everything in an engaging story, like why do they watch Lion King or Pinocchio or these things? It's like, if we could tell our story, like The Chosen, in a narrative way that's compelling, we're going to get more people to want to be curious about it because number one, it's well done, but that's the story. We live in a story. The gospel's in a story. We have to be able to tell great stories.
So speaking of stories, transition to Peterson.
Peterson, sure.
Yeah. So we went and saw Peterson in Chicago.
The Chicago Theater. How awesome is that place?
That was gorgeous. I've never been there. I've driven by a bunch. But
I've never been there either.
They don't build stuff like that anymore.
No, those probably built in the 30s, built to last. Art Deco.
It was just gorgeous.
Absolutely gorgeous. That was cool.
Why don't we do that anymore?
Well, that goes back to the point about the beauty, because the utilitarian was more important of function and form, went away. But like these buildings that they built in the 30s and 40s, they're still standing, but they also were beautiful because you had, like in the New Deal, they hired like artisans to build those buildings. Like the person who did the tile and just like the way they made churches is like
Imagine if you took somebody from that generation, from that age, and brought them into today, they probably would think like, oh, the future, it's going to just get more beautiful. It's going to get better. It's going to get, but you drop them into one of our buildings today.
Yeah.
And it's just sterile LED lights. And
well, it just shows you how much they don't care about people. Because it's just like, well, you don't need anything nice or beautiful. Like you just should just have brick walls, like make the schools as boring and horrible, or, being in an environment where there's art and beauty. It's like, it just elevates everything. It's sad.
It is a reflection on how we see each other. Because if we see each other as just material things that need material things to be satisfied, then the bare minimum is going to be okay. But if we see ourselves as spiritual beings, yes, with bodies, then we're going to aspire to beauty and art, and our surroundings are going to reflect that.
Yeah, so it was nice.
Chicago Theater was gorgeous.
So how many people were there? Was
3,600?
3,600 people.
Yeah.
To see a college professor talk for 2 hours about mostly Genesis.
Dude, it blew my mind that first of all, how humble he is. Like, it seemed very authentic. His wife introduced him. He could have had anyone at this point, he could have anybody come out and introduce him. His wife introduces him, and he just comes out very simply, like, "Thank you for having me." And then he talks for 2 hours without any notes. And it's like,
And he's somehow tying it all together.
it's all tied in together. It's all deep. It's all rich. I mean, at moments, I wish I was watching it at home so I could pause the guy
and
so I can just think
for
on
a
what he's
second.
saying and unpack it. But then he's jumping to the next thing, and it's like, okay, I don't want to miss that. But it was just so good. I was really inspired. I would love for more people to see him beyond the clips that you catch on social media, beyond the criticisms, beyond whatever they throw at him, the straw men that they construct of his arguments. Like, actually give the guy
give him a chance.
give him the chance. Give him
people who
give him
criticize
the time to unpack his
they
ideas.
never even listened or watched actually
Yeah.
what he's said. They take what other people have said about him or wrote about him. But those interviews where he's doing that and where people are coming at him and trying to attack him, it's like they're his most popular ones. It's like when you're trying to attack him, like all you do is make him more popular because he's thought about these positions. He staked his life, his career on, that no one's going to control my speech. That's what it was all ultimately was about. That's how he came onto the scene. For those who don't know Jordan Peterson, he's a clinical psychologist. He's an author. His book, 12 Rules for Life, sold like 11 million
Former
copies.
university professor.
Yeah, he's a psychologist for 20 years, but he's on tour for a book he's writing called "We Who Wrestle with God," and it's gonna sell probably 10 more million. And what he's doing is, and in these lecture series, before he finishes his book, he goes and like tries to work out these ideas. Like his first book, he said he spent 15 years writing his first book, and each sentence in his book he rewrote 12 times at least. Like that's how careful and thoughtful he is about his speech. And that's what he tries to teach the people who follow him, listen to him, is that be precise in your speech. Say what's the truth. Don't lie. Like these are important messages that we always were like, these are just normal, that people just know. Like, clean your room before you try to criticize the world. Like these.
I like his emphasis on get out what you actually think. And that's why he promotes writing so much. Even if you're not a published author, you're not looking to publish your work. No, get in the habit of writing so you can get out what you actually think. And then don't be afraid of scrutinizing it. Okay, now this is what I believe. I'm gonna actually go through it and I'm gonna test what I believe. And does it line up against reality?
That's what he always quotes Alfred Whitehead, who says that our ideas have to die so that we don't. And that's what thinking and writing does. Like you can think, like I can think all day, like I'll get scatterbrained because I'm thinking like 10 things at once. But if I have to sit down and have to write it all out, it's hard because you have to focus, you have to concentrate. And that's what he's actually has an app. We saw that the commercial for the app. He has an app called Essay where it's like actually teaching you, helping you organize your thoughts, because the better your thoughts are organized, the better your arguments are going to be. The better your arguments,
The better you're going to understand yourself.
You're going to understand yourself and your positions, and to be able to defend on, especially being Christian, like be ready to give a defense for our faith. Okay, well, have you ever crafted an idea of why you believe in Jesus?
So what was your biggest takeaway from
Biggest
that night?
takeaway is that I've watched too much of Jordan Peterson, that I've heard most of what he said because I've listened to like everything he's done.
Yeah.
Like he talked a lot about Genesis, which my favorite part about that is that, I always joke with my wife, is that, there's two creation stories in Genesis. And the second one where it talks about that God made Adam a helpmate, which the word, the Jewish or the Hebrew translation for helpmate is like, Ezer Kenebno is the word, which literally means helpmate. It's translated to helpmate, but the Hebrew actually means beneficial adversary. That your wife or your spouse, to each other, you are beneficial adversaries. And when then I stopped to think about it, I'm like, that's the kind of spouse you want to have. It's like you don't want a spouse to just rubber stamp all your bad ideas or the stupid things that you do. You want them to help call you and call each other to be saints, to get to heaven. It's like, well, if there's something, it doesn't feel good though to get told that what you're doing is wrong. But if you're doing it out of love and trying to help each other, that in that relationship of give and take, and we have open lines of communication to be able to be adversarial when needed. Because, just in a family, the way that I parent, a dad's role and a mom's role is way different. I mean, just how my wife for the first year is feeding the baby with her body, and I'm, more of, protector, provider. Like we complement each other, but we have this give and take relationship where sometimes, we have adversarial because we're, working together to be better parents, better spouses, or better people. But that was my, I just love how he unpacks a lot of the Genesis stuff. He actually has 15 lectures on Genesis, like 30 hours. If you really want to get into the Genesis story, it's excellent.
I'll piggyback off of that because mine builds on it. I love just the concept, and I think people are not aware of it, or they're not willing to do it. God wants us to wrestle with him. So, I mean, that's obviously the title of the book and the tour. So I named my son Jacob. My dad's name is Jacob. Jacob, the patriarch from the Old Testament, is the one who wrestles with God. And he's given the name Israel, the one who wrestles with God. I love that sentiment because whether it's with your wife, whether it's with a friend or a family member or with God himself, we have to be willing to wrestle in these important relationships and not walk away. And in fact, in these good and important relationships is where wrestling ought to happen, for my sake and for the sake of the other. And that's just something that I think we need to recapture, because when you look at things like fatherlessness, divorce rates, the unrestlessness that people have, the rise in anxiety, people don't wrestle anymore. And so if you're not wrestling for what's true, what's good, if you're not allowing other people to call you out on your ideas, where your ideas become so tied to your identity, then it's going to become a scary place for all of us, because we're going to fall into subjectivity. Then my truth and my reality, what I say about myself, trumps all. Yeah. And you can't live in a world where 8 billion people think that their reality trumps all other realities. Yeah. What then unifies us and draws us together? And so Peterson takes it a step further and says, and I loved this, where he talks about God, his breath over the waters, and God bringing order into the chaos.
The tohu babohu.
The spin that he does on it is God creates in the nothing. He brings order to chaos in the beginning of Genesis. It's how our scriptures open up. And that's so important for us to remember. God wrestles with the potential that exists. And that potential exists for each one of us, like especially for men and women. But I'll speak to men because I can relate to that, obviously. Men, we have this restlessness within us, and it can produce anxiety. It could even produce hopelessness, because we look at our lives as a collection of potentials that exists. And it's in that potential that we have to wrestle in order to figure out what our why and what defines us, why we're going to get up in the morning, what we're working for, what are we trying to produce. I just love that idea. And a man that's able to do that and to do that consistently is one that's going to have fulfillment, purpose, and meaning in life. If you don't do that, then you're just going to be lost in this whirlwind of potentiality, what my life could be, the direction my life could go in, all these things that are pulling and tugging at me. Don't get sucked into that. Be like God, and then wrestle with it, wrestle with the potential of it, bring order to it, and in doing, you bring order to your life. That just like, I'm still reflecting on that.
Yeah, the wrestling line was good. And I said a joke in the elevator on the way out. But it said something like, yeah, I hope I can wrestle my wife when I get home or something like that. I was laughing. But he also makes a good point. One of his real things that I really took to heart, especially with raising kids, is wrestling with the children. Like, it's so important, rough and tumble play. Like, he's a big proponent about why that's important as far as development. But if you've never wrestled with your children, it is the thing that they love more than, and my kids will do anything for me to wrestle with them. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll be like, clean the whole entire house. Like, yeah, we'll wrestle. Like, I'm daddy macho man savage. We go ham. We start going nuts, and I get them on the bed and I'm start throwing them around. But what it's doing is it's teaching the kids, number one, in this day and age, like, no touching, keep your hands to yourself. Like, the kids don't, like, they're still body. They have to understand their limits of their body, how far they could push. Like, hey, when I'm wrestling with dad, I can't give him the old, Three Stooges. hit him in the eye, I can't kick him in the, and I can't do these things. So it helps to teach them. It's almost like a dance. And that's what marriage and raising kids, it's meant to be a dance, a give and take. And if one person is dragging the other person around, you're not doing much dance. But if it's a give and take, in dancing, does it look like the man's the lead? Yeah, but that isn't true. It's like they're both leading in their own different ways. And with this rough and tumble, this wrestling with God, wrestling with your spouse, wrestling with your children, it teaches them how to use, it's okay. It's okay to wrestle. Wrestling's okay, but too much, no wrestling, no rough and tumble, and at first my wife would always be like, oh, whoa, be careful. And I'm picking them up and suplexing them and smashing them, not hurting them, but being rough with them enough to pushing them to the limit of having fun. And they'll do it for 5 hours if you let them. They crave that. They want that play. And Jordan Peterson also talks about that they discovered that there's a circuit in rats or animals. It's a play circuit that rats will do anything to play with each other, but there has to be a percentage of times where the person who is wrestling, you can't, I can't just win with my kids. At least 30% of the time, something like that, the kid's got to win. I got to fall down and let them pin me and make it seem like they're winning. If I just smash them the whole time, the kids don't want to do that anymore. Same like if you're playing one-on-one basketball with a friend and you just smash them, they don't want to play that game. So it's trying to help them to teach them. And that's our faith journey, is that, like you said with Jacob, is that God encourages wrestling. He encourages us to try to see the potential and to see what's out there for us. But we have to get in the ring, the man in the ring.
So the distinction that I like that he makes on that, because he talks about men and women and how we're complementary, there's complementarity between us. And he talks about the greatest sin is the sin of pride. But we each engage that sin of pride differently.
Yeah.
Men engage the sin of pride by saying, I can order reality according to my will. And without God, that's what you fall into, right? That's what modernism and postmodernism is. It's saying that I'm going to define the value system that's going to govern the world. And we see that played out with people that want to define language and restrict speech. And they want to project onto the world, this is my identity. This is how you're going to relate to me because I've said it's the case. So Peterson goes on to say, men, they fall into the pride of, I can order reality, rather than assenting to, there's a creator that's ordered reality, and it's my job to figure it out and to apply it to my life, and then to order my life according to it, right? There's this hierarchy of truth. Women fall into the pride of false compassion. Everything's okay. And he unpacks this a lot more, so this is more of a teaser. Definitely check out the book, look him up online. But women fall into the pride of everything's okay. I'm going to mother. I'm going to love. I'm going to be all accepting. If my son approaches me with an idea, I'm not going to criticize them. I'm just going to love on them and let them live their truth or let them live the reality that they're, no. Yeah, sometimes a mother's love, the devouring mother, sometimes a mother's love has to say no. Sometimes a mother's love has to set boundaries and parameters. And we see that in the church, right? That's why we refer to church as mother. The church sets up boundaries and parameters for us, and it's within there that we can operate, because it's within there that we're actually free to grow and to pursue that which is good and true and beautiful for ourselves. And so I found that to be fascinating. The idea of, I can't order reality to my will. That's a sin of pride. But I also can't just be accepting of everything, especially if it flies in the face of reality. Yeah. Then that's also a sin of pride. So, I mean, it was just 2 hours of mind-blowing event after another.
Get you thinking a lot about these.
Definitely check out the book. He's on.
And they just released an excellent 15 or 16 part on Exodus, which is a perfect time for Lent. If you've never studied the book of Exodus, Lent's a good time to go out into the desert in Exodus, the 40 years in the desert. And he's got a panel of Christians and Orthodox and Jews and different denominations and scholars. It's like a round table, which is I'm a nerd. So I like the conversation, I want more of the smartest people in the world talking about subjects that are not clips on a 5-minute news show, but for I mean, it was literally, I watched 32 hours of Exodus talk. And it's like really like go in depth into these things that are inexhaustible. Like you can read Genesis for your whole life and not understand like how deep it is. It's like, it's great to see somebody so popular selling out stadiums, or not stadiums, but theaters and books talking about, the Bible. It's like
God's truth.
Yeah. And actually if you want the Catholic perspective about it, there's actually a book from Word on Fire that I read. I believe his name is Kazar. It's like the Jordan Peterson effect, because Bishop Barron's had him on like 3 times, I think. But 2 guys wrote a book about like, because he's not explicitly Christian, even though he's breaking down. His wife is becoming Catholic. She talked about the rosary, and she gave us a good story about facing death and in her own life and in her sister and just how else are we going to face suffering other than head on. You can't run from it. You're not going to escape it. It's going to be there. But there's a book, Word on Fire, about Jordan Peterson, where it actually takes like the parts that he's
and
missing.
no person, you're never going to agree 100% with any person, but you can appreciate good arguments and truth where you hear them.
But how many people is he evangelizing though? Yeah. A ton of people. And not only that, everybody was dressed up. We wore suits. Everyone wore suits. Everyone got all dressed up for an event. Like this is how they used to do it in the 30s and 40s. Everybody, when they went out and got dressed up, everywhere they went, it was a lot more seriousness to that. It was nice. It was a cool event to see people like.
I'll still rock my hoodie in the day-to-day. So Carhartt, if you're watching this and you want to throw a sponsorship.
Yeah, I like a Cosmic sweater.
So recap, get on the Hallow app.
Yep.
Watch The Chosen.
Yeah.
Wait on the Apple Vision Pros. And check out Jordan Peterson.
Check it out.
We Wrestle with God.
Yeah.
Want to close this up in a prayer?
Yep. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Come, Holy Spirit. Lord, we thank you for this time together. We ask that you help us during Lent to strip away what needs to be stripped away and to add in what needs to be added in. We ask that you help us wrestle with you respectfully, help us to grow, and help us to love. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Thanks a lot.
Take care. God bless.